Well, good morning, everyone. There we go. Everything's up on the screen. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 5th day of September 2019. Well, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you've come back, thank you so much. It's lovely to see everybody on this Thursday. I guess it's going to be 91 today, and we're supposed to have thunderstorms, which is not going to be fun. We're not used to things being muggy over here on the high desert, not like you find in Portland and in the valley area along the I-5, well, at least the upper part of the state in any event. But you get down south, and sometimes it's a little drier down there in some places, but here over on the high desert, we're in the center part of the state. We're right in the middle. And in fact, we had was it Goldschmidt? Who was it that was running for governor and made some comment about how Bend and Redmond are in the middle of nowhere. Well, he didn't win. Anyway, but I don't remember, but it was like, no, well, I mean, kind of, but not really. Although I have to say, we've been over here since 1981, and it's grown quite a bit. We're still not I wouldn't say we're a thriving metropolis, although meeting a map and a yellow highlighter suddenly gave Bend a whole lot more people than it did. They brought some of the county into their tax base, basically. So I think it got quite a little bit more expensive maybe for people to live in Bend. I think it's just, Bend has its positive aspects, but I just think it's too cluttered. Everything is sort of crammed together, and it's hard to feel like you can get around easily. Any downtown area feels like that, but most of Bend feels like that to me, and it's just, it's too busy. But, aesthetically, it's a nice area. It's got a whole lot more than it used to, and here in Redmond, we really had to go to Bend to buy shoes for the longest time because there just wasn't a shoe store here. And then more of that sort of thing moved in, but I think when we moved here, there was 6,000 people in Redmond. Now there's, are we up around 30,000 now, I think? So we're still pretty small here, comparatively speaking. But irrespective of where all the population sort of, congregates, this is still a small town area in a lot of ways. It's very conservative in a lot of ways, although a little more liberalism is moving in. I've always felt like I'm a little red guppy in a big, or a little blue guppy in a big red sea. Let's put it that way. A little blue guppy, not a little red guppy, a little blue guppy. So it's a really interesting thing now. You sit out at night and you hear rapid gunfire, and it's not comfortable. My husband is a veteran, and he doesn't like it. He is uncomfortable with it. It makes him nervous. He's from the Vietnam era, and so this sort of thing puts him on edge. So he doesn't like it at all. So anyhow. But I suppose that's true for anywhere someone lives. If you live somewhere for a really long time, you get to experience all the growth and changes that it's supposed to do. It was actually supposed to be much bigger, much sooner, and it hasn't. So I suspect that water is the issue. But, we're very, very dry here. We're up on, it's not, it's not called the high desert for nothing, but we're at about 3,000 feet. So, there's also snow in the year and everything else. So anyhow, I just wanted to mention one thing again. That yod that we talked about yesterday between Chiron, Pallas, and Juno is still in effect. So if you're still working on relationship issues, working out maybe some the wounding surrounding relationships. Maybe it's preventing you from moving forward. Now, Chiron is not just about, wounds from childhood. This is about psychic wounds that are collective in nature from all of your lifetimes. And so, it could be past life stuff coming in. And the notion of it being past is also likely an illusion as well. Ideally, it all sort of happens at once. So, and all we're doing is just remembering. When we're thinking about past lives, we're just remembering what we've done. If we all thought of it in terms of just layers of experience that we're just drawing from, then, some of it's present in this present reality and some of it isn't. So, if you can't find any real reason for why you're maybe suffering a bit, it could be something that happened, in another experience. So be aware of that as well. Just sort of go with the flow and learn from whatever the message is, and don't try to attach too much significance on the when of it all, because it might not be in the current lifetime that you're currently conscious of. I think at some point when we're more aware of our spiritual nature of self, of spirit within, of being souls inhabiting a body, as soon as we start really allowing that truth to resonate, I think we're going to see probably more awareness of past lives. And I think that's more conscious instead of having to go into meditation to achieve some of that. So I think we'll be just more aware of, okay, in the 15th century, I did it this way. It worked for me then. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at the cards before we get too wooey here. It's like, oh, there she goes again. But it's better than sitting here and you listening to me shuffle endlessly until I get the cards where I want them. Lately, I've been pulling the same cards when I've been doing other readings. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, let's take the first card. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And if it's your first time here, I take the 13th card each time for randomness. Just in this, though, in normal readings that I put out on the blog over at Stepping Aside at I'mSteppingAside.com, that one, I just do a regular reading where I just lay cards out. But for this, I like it to be really random. Well, here we started yesterday, I believe, with a major arcana card. We're going to start again today, this time with the 8th card, and Strength. This is actually balancing spirit with form. And the strength to do that. Spirit, of course, is heavier weighted here. It's balancing the wild and civilized selves, actually. The wild and civilized selves. There we go. See the lemniscate above her head, the garland on her hair. White dress of purity. It looks like you see roses there. And she's tamed the lion. She's tamed the beast within. But what it's really denoting is that if ego runs amok, we have kind of what we're experiencing now, aren't we? If spirit's informing that process, then we tend to, sort of tamp down the ego or tamp down the wild side. I used to know people who they rode motorcycles, and they literally once they got their motorcycle, you wouldn't see them anymore. But the point was is that neither would their children. So, they find excuses to leave the kids, and I don't know. It's like they embrace the wild side, but they don't understand that there are responsibilities as well. And I think that's really what the card of strength is all about. The 8 itself, you're looking at greater awareness of harmony with others. You see it beginning in the 6. You see it sometimes even in the 4, like the 4 of wands, for example. There you're looking at intentional harmony with someone else and coming together and providing a new structure for yourself. Well, here with the 8, or I should say with the 6, say the 6 of cups, you're looking at shared abundance. But you're looking at the notion that I have more than I need, and I want to share that with other people. It's not, life just isn't simply about you. And then when you get to the 8, you do bring in the concept of strength. You bring in the concept of leadership and compassion, and the awareness of self within the collective is more prevalent. And so understanding that given that this is you also, with the lemniscate above her head, you're talking about cycles as well. And so you can look upon this as maybe a balancing of the horizontal plane of masculine and feminine polarity, or you could look at it on the vertical plane of spirit with form. But again, it's reflecting a greater awareness of just your own initial ego-based, id-based needs. So that's the idea behind strength. The strength within to rise above the ego and the choices that the ego wants to make. It's like I tell my husband, he's a Sagittarian. The moon's in Sagittarius today in the 3rd house of communication. Sagittarians are very independent. They're very leadership-oriented. My husband was the initial instructor in our dojo when we had our dojo, and then later on when I got my black belt, then I was also an official instructor. Although in our school you were student teaching when you were a brown belt. Other schools have lower belts teaching, but typically speaking, that's because you're on a contract system and they're trying to find free labor. Oh, you must teach in order to get your next belt. Yeah, that was the racket, the pyramid scheme that some of these places were using. My husband went to one, and my son, our oldest boy, did too. And when he got his black belt, when my husband did, we just decided to open a school. We just decided we weren't going to do it that way. So no contracts. Students were there to be students. And then when you get your brown belt, then yeah, you need to start teaching. It wasn't that students didn't help. They did, one another, but they weren't responsible for teaching classes. And that to me was just obscene. So we didn't do that, Just thought that was a bridge too far, more of a manipulation than really a true dojo experience. But he's one of these guys that my husband is. If you're a Sagittarian, you tend to embody the strength card. At least I think so. And they're always in that mode of trying to balance out, the civilized side with the wild side too, because you've got the adventuresome spirit, and although, he's not somebody that's necessarily given to travel, so I don't really know where that one comes in with him. He sort of leaves that to me to plan those things and all of that. I mean, he goes. It's not that he doesn't go. It's just, it doesn't occur to him to go. So it occurs to him to just work diligently where he is. So he doesn't, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else that's really changed. Earth continues its dominant aspect today. But the others, air, fire, and earth, are starting to increase. They're staying in relative balance, but they're starting to make their presence known a little bit more. The last few days, they've been almost, not really there. Earth has been so dominant, but the sign, of course, is Virgo right now, so makes sense, I think. Virgo is a very earthy sign. Let's see what the next card is, though. It's a Jupiter day, given it's a Thursday, so expansive energy. So that may be indicating, well, if you're embracing the Sagittarian influence and it is causing you to want to go out and do other things instead of work, I suppose, that might be an example of balancing the wild and civilized sides of self. And it seems like either the card of strength is either telling us we're going to have to do that today, or at the very least, we possess the ability to do that today. Well, here we have the Ten of Wands, and this is an interesting card. You see the town in the background, or maybe his home in the background. It's kind of hard to tell because the staffs are in the way there, and it could just be trees behind them. But I've never actually been able to tell too well on this card, especially because you've got some stuff over here too. So this could be he's heading toward his home. But the idea here is that he has many burdens. You got the 10, which is actually new beginnings. So he could be establishing something here. His head is down. But at the same time, everything has an interesting balance to it, doesn't it? As if he doesn't actually have to look where he's going because he knows. So his focus may not be, or maybe he can actually kind of, look at the ground and tell he's not going to fall over anything. But maybe the way has been made clear for something new to take hold, and we're well prepared for the future. And realistically, I mean, he is really bent into it, isn't it? He's leaning into the future, isn't he? And it looks like with the card of strength, we're going to have the focus to manifest all of that. Wands is the fire element after all, and that's talking about our will and our creative action and things like that. It's an action-oriented card, but it's creativity in action. And so it's the spark of life. It's the spark of new beginnings. And so being the 10 and a card of new beginnings, I really think that this is more than simply a heavy load. And so what if you have one? Sometimes you have to do that, when you're trying to establish yourself. You go to school, you go to college, you go to a trade school, you do whatever you do. Maybe you become, say, if you become a plumber, you journeyman, you become a journeyman or whatever. What is it called? Where you're apprentice first and then journeyman. That's what it is. So maybe you become someone's apprentice and you learn that way. Whatever you're doing, though, you're gathering it all together for the future, aren't you? And that's really what the 10 is actually saying. I've never been comfortable with the whole notion of carrying a heavy burden or many burdens or anything else. I don't see it that way. I just see him going off into the future very, very, very well prepared for whatever is going to come up. And clearly he's managed to, because of the balance here, what the other thing you see here about the weightier side of spirit, we've talked about that occasionally here. Look where it crosses. Crosses down lower, doesn't it? Which is why it balances well with strength, because this is such a card of spirit. Any of the major arcana cards are soul archetype cards. And so when you see those, that's spirit saying, hey, here I am, here you are, let's get it together now. Focus from here, use your spirit vision, see it from my perspective. And allow spirit to inform the whole endeavor, and then things seem to just sort of fall into place. And that's really what I think the 10 is telling us, that things are falling into place for us today. However, not for my shuffling. That's not happening at all. I'm dropping them at least on my lap, at least not onto the floor. Yesterday, I don't even know how many cards I dropped. And it wasn't just one at a time. One time it was like 3 at once. It's like, geez. Sometimes the hands just don't work. Let's do our last card, or at least the third one. Sometimes I do 4. It just depends on what the cards are, but I'm hoping this will just be one more, given that I don't seem to be able to work the cards at all. Well, that was decidedly better, maybe because it knows it's going to be the last one. Well, we have the Ace of Pentacles, and so again, I think that reinforces new beginnings, particularly having to do with our foundation. So money matters, home, hearth, income, work, tradition, any of that, grounding, all of that is about the earth element, and Pentacles reflects the earth element. But what I love about this one, not only the recurrent theme of the hand coming out from the clouds, which is unknown, it talks about the future. The aces are all about new beginnings. You see that lovely archway there to new experiences, and the mountains in the background says that, it might be challenging, but that's okay. We're ready. We have strength. We have the 10 of wands. We're ready. We're prepared. Spirit's informing, and abundance can be ours with this. So this is a really positive reading for a Thursday, and given Jupiter's impact on this, we have the energies of expansion. So really the sky's the limit today. Let's do, and we're doing pretty well on time here, so let's do a rune from the Elder Futhark. We'll just let them fall through my hand, and when the last one is there, that's the rune for today. It's also the way I do bind runes, by the way. I just set my intention, and you know, typically in a bind rune, you're going to take 3 to 5 runes, and then, you know, combine them together into some pleasing fashion, right? And it doesn't mean you're going to see 5 intact runes positioned around. You're going to combine them together. And it's never failed me. I just pull them out without knowing what they are, and, you know. Well, we have destruction and preparation for change with Hagalaz. So perhaps what's happening here, the old, you know, you've got the idea of new beginnings. Well, the idea of new beginnings means something has to end. And so whatever struggle that was happening internally that maybe was preventing you from moving forward, Hagalaz is giving you the energy to do that. It's also known as the Witch Rune. It's the 9th rune of the Elder Futhark, providing the completion. So we will put that probably then between, energetically between strength. So we have the inner strength, the spiritual strength, the strength of spirit, to break through and balance the shadow side or wild side with spirit, ego with, you know, the actual soul energy of who we are. Hagalaz provides us, it's one of the Norn runes. We've got Hagalaz, Nathis, and Isa are the 3 Norn runes, and Hagalaz would indicate the past, and so that's where the transformation is happening at the completion. We're now transforming into something else, and into maybe a little bit new balance, new awareness. We have all that we need, and we're well prepared for the future because of that. And then we can then open the door to new experiences that then can affect our foundation, our income, our security, financial, and all of that. I don't think I'm going to draw that out and show you what the components of that is, because really you're just looking at 2 legs of Isa, but you're also looking at parallel here with the archway and the Ace of Pentacles when you see the 2. I mean, you're looking at a fixed structure, right? But you're also looking at a doorway to new experiences as well. And that mirrors the archway here on the Ace of Pentacles, doesn't it? You know, the tarot uses that in varying ways. You know, you'll see 2 trees, you'll see 2 pillars, but you'll see 2 of something, right? Or you'll see an archway or a doorway or something like that. Sometimes you'll see it manifested like on the, what is it, the 3 of Wands. You'll see that. I think maybe the 2 of Wands as well, maybe. But you're kind of looking at either you're looking at an individual beyond it, you know, so you're looking at someone who's gone through the doorway. So there's a lot of symbolism that basically does that provides the way forward into something new. I'm going to do a geomancy rune. If you check out the blog, you'll note that once a month I do monthly tarot reading, and then along with others during the month. But I also do a monthly geomancy reading. So if you want to get a real idea of what that's about, go there and look at that and look at the shield chart. But what we do with this is there's 4 runes that I use, 2 dots on one side, a single dot on the other. We range them in a series of 4, beginning with fire. The 2 dots are our passive influence, single dots are an active influence. So we have fire, air. We have 2 dots for fire, 1 for air. Is this water? Yeah, 2 for water and 2 for earth. So I believe that's Rubius. Yeah, that's Rubius. Now, I've said this before. Geomancers of old, like Agrippa and people like that, they would always say, apparently Agrippa would do this, it's attributed to him. Some say, oh no, that he didn't write that, but I don't know. There's just a booklet or whatever called, a piece of writing called Of Geomancy, and supposedly that's been attributed to Cornelius Agrippa, but maybe not. Some say no, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. But the idea is there's a few of them like Carcer rubeus and Cata draconis, I think, that if you pull that on when you're doing a shield chart, and if you pull that first, if you draw that, create that one first, then you're to destroy everything. I mean, you're not all of your you're supposed to end the reading, destroy all paper, whatever you're drawing on, whatever you're doing it on, destroy everything. It's too evil to continue. So Rubeus is considered passionate. It's a Mars energy, but it's a more sophisticated one than Pur, which is a young boy. So you're looking at unstable energy, but with Rubeus, it's in full control, right? And so with that, it's with a young boy. With Pur, it's a little more erratic and unstable, and it's just because he's a kid, right? But with Rubeus, you're talking about a man, and you're talking about adult type of energy. So experienced, aggressive energy. So this could be vampiric. But it could also be the passion to get going. All right. If you don't want to draw any judgment about it, then you can simply look at Rubeus as Mars energy that's intense. Okay. That's passionate. You can see that with Sagittarius. It's a fire element sign. You can see that type of passion and intensity with that. You also saw it with Scorpio, but that's a water element sign. But you see, you're looking at intensity building, right, with the two signs together in a little bit different way. Sagittarius might be a little bit more in control in a way, but sometimes not. Scorpio is pretty focused. But here with Rubeus, I think that all it's saying, we're going to position it right next to Hagalaz and give Hagalaz and some additional oomph. Geomancy is an earth divination tool. And, like the pendulum work, like ley lines and all of that, that's all involved in geomancy. This is just one aspect of it. It can be done a variety of ways. This is just the way I do it. But I think that we're talking about between strength, Hagalaz, and Rubeus, I think that we're talking about sort of a triple type of energy here. I think either... And there's reciprocity between it, because either we possess the strength to then break through with Hagalaz and have the energy of Rubeus to do that as well, to then burst into something new. We've completed a cycle. Maybe that transition, maybe if we were struggling with this sort of thing, maybe this is a really big breakthrough for us. And now we can see the fruits of all of that, everything coming together, with Spirit still informing, but at the same time, we're basically in a position now of being able to allow Spirit to guide our path in a way. That's why he's not bothering to look forward. He doesn't need to. And he knows that something wonderful is on the horizon. He just has to walk through that doorway and trust that Spirit is there to guide the whole thing. That's something that we don't do. We were talking about this yesterday about balanced polarity and all of that, and patriarchy, and how yesterday's reading was more societal. Today's reading, I think, is just more about the individual. But yesterday was more about how one individual can just upend the whole apple cart. And when it's a patriarchal-based type of experience, it just carries forward an imbalance that never should have been. And so now we're starting to see, you can also look at the strength card as the goddess taming, humanity, and coming back in and saying, you know what, let's get a little different balance here today. In going forward, how about we do that? How about we not have such a male-dominated energy that doesn't seem to make anything better? It just seems to make things better for a chosen few, whereas the rest of humanity is sitting there scratching their head and going, I thought you were talking about me when you were saying you were going to make America great again. I thought you were talking about me. No. The only swamp draining that got done was the removal of protections. The very, very wealthy in the world want to maintain the wealth as a rule. I mean, occasionally you'll get someone who's very wealthy that just doesn't seem to function that way. They know they have all they need, and they're not threatened by anyone else having anything too, right? But basically, what you have when you essentially hire, or whatever this was, a billionaire who isn't, but who says he is, but even if he was, when you hire somebody like that to protect the little guy, what are you doing? He's not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. So when the whole notion of draining the swamp, what I think that truly means is, from the perspective of somebody who's corporation oriented, when you look at that side of the equation, the swamp are the regulations that prevent them from making as much money as they want to make. The problem is in doing that, you harm the planet, you harm people. Protections for water safety are no longer there. Methane. And now they're going to take away the advancements on light bulbs. So, I mean, it's like, not only are we going backwards, we're going into the abyss. In terms of our interactions with others in the world, they're very, very, very threatened at this point. Our standing in the world is threatened at this point. So you have to ask yourself, who benefits? Well, the rich do. The corporate people do. The corporations do. The oligarchs do. These are the people that are going to benefit from that. So the swamp, in terms of your perspective, means, in terms of my perspective and the average person's perspective, we think that means you're going to drain the swamp of corruption. No. What draining the swamp meant was they were going to remove all the checks and balances so that corruption could then flourish. All right. And so that the rich could get even richer, and the rest of us are sitting there going, oh my God. And now, of course, since he took office, we have nothing but mass shootings, right? People are dying. And not just one here and one there. We're talking daily. And I mean, we've had more mass shootings just in this last year. I can't remember the number I read. I was just in shock when I read it. Between letting go of the assault weapons ban, biggest mistake we ever made. They put these weapons in the hands of people that are just frankly too unstable to have them. Too grievance-based, too grievance-oriented. And so what you see here with this today's reading is a shift from, I don't know, I guess a shift into awareness, maybe. When you understand that we can't live that way. This is the card of strength is actually coming in and saying, you know what? We need to have a different way forward here, a different balance. The 10 shows it. We're heavily weighted on spirit here. When we allow spirit to drive the vehicle, then, we don't make these kinds of mistakes. We seek balance instead of removing it and create, because here is what they want. They want the pyramid this way, where they're the important people and the rest of us are nothing. You see, that's what they want. So the notion of change that was supposed to happen to make us all better, it wasn't us. It's just a little bitty group of people. So I don't know. I think that this is what this is saying is that, and especially with the witch rune Hagalas, Goddess is going to make her presence known one way or the other. She makes it known in the runes. She makes it known in the tarot cards. She makes it known in the geomancy divination, but she's here and she's not going to go away. And she's not going to sit back. She's going to move in and lean in. And she's going to be here to assist us all to do the same. To let go of the division, to let go of the hate, to let go of all of that, all of the isms, and come together in a better balance. But that has to start from within. And that's what she's telling us here. The Lemnis gate is the eternal balance, not just cycles, it's the eternal balance of everything, of creation. It's just that in our neck of the woods, we're just really out of control, and it's not okay, and it's going to be righted for us if we don't do it ourselves. But I think that that's what this is saying. So for the weekend here coming up, because we won't be here tomorrow, I just do this Monday through Thursday. So take the weekend, and I'll be healing from my dental visit today, but take the weekend. I got to do that at 3 o'clock today, but I'm going to have this, what's left of this, the crown's no longer on it. So whatever's left of the root and everything has got to come out and get ready for an implant. So we're doing that, and then I'm going to get a crown up here, and so they're going to root canal and do a restoration and all that stuff. So those two things are happening today. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But while I'm doing it, I'm going to be thinking about taming the wild within with spirit, and allowing that process to just destroy everything that doesn't work for me, and bring about such a better balance, such a better amount of change. It doesn't matter if the way forward is difficult. It doesn't matter if we have to take baby steps, as long as we take baby steps in the same direction. You know, we can disagree. We can, you know, we need that inner Nothies, you know, the 10th rune of the Elder Futhark, the rune of the future, the Norn rune of the future. We need that inner friction, you know, and disagreement does that. That's the friction, you know, within, right? Coming out saying, well, no, I think it should be this way. And the other person's like, well, no, I think it should be this way. But at least we're talking about some shared purpose, right? We might disagree how to get there, and that's okay. We just need to keep talking, which we're not doing right now. So anyhow, just saying. So I guess that's it. And we'll see you on Monday. Thank you so much for coming by, and do check out the blog. Things are going up there every single day. Sometimes you're going to notice that some, and I note this down at the bottom of most of my posts, at least the ones that have links to them. I have an Amazon affiliate storefront, which you'll find a link to here. It's one of those influencer things. You'll find a link down below in the show more section, where it gives all of the links to wherever I am. If you want to see where I am on Twitter, I'm Mistress Jan on Twitter. There's a Stepping Aside Facebook page. You know, there's a LinkedIn thing. There's just all kinds of Tumblr, Pinterest, all of that. That's all there. On Stellar, which is a really cool site. That's another one that you should probably check out. I do recommend that if you're kind of UFO oriented like I am. So, and it's a real esoteric. It's not just UFO stuff. There's other things on there as well. But it's kind of an alternative thought site, and it's not one of those that's, you know, like 4chan or, you know, like that. It's not like that. It's kind of a Facebook style presentation to it, same kind of, you know, format visually, and it's just a nice place. You know, David Icke's on it, and I mean, just people in the alternative thinking and ufology and all of that, they're all there. So anyhow, all of those people, if you're into that, that's called onstellar.com, and you can join, and it's fun. So they're there, as I'm over there as well. But as far as it's called a Witch in Store is my Amazon thing, and I note that at the bottom of a lot of my posts, because I'll put links in there. I'm an author, and I publish my books on Amazon, and so you'll see, and because I do that, I have to put that little disclaimer that I'm actually earning advertising. It's an advertisement. You're not earning anyway, but you earn a little tiny bit if something gets sold. And so anyway, if you click on it and you buy it, then, you know, that's cool. So what I like to do there is I'll link to things like, you know, incense resins, you know, like for the correspondence posts and stuff. I'll link to that. So in case, you know, if you need to pick up something that you're missing, if you're, you know, going to be working a spell or something and you don't have any frankincense, which, you know, is anathema to a witch. If you don't have any frankincense, you got to have that. And, you know, it's to burn in the cauldron on the little charcoal. Anyway, things like that, the runes, I link to rune pendants, you know, stuff like that. So I link to things like that will take you to Amazon. And anyway, so that kind of stuff's in there as well. And, but basically, you know, it's just there. It's kind of a witch blog. Well, it is a witch blog, but it also has other things. I'm an herbalist, so it has stuff like that in it. And I'm an empath, so there's that. There's some Reiki stuff. There's some stuff on cannabis. So it's kind of not just a witch blog, but basically that's what it is. Anyway, check that out. Subscribe to it if you like. I don't send you anything. I don't put you on any lists, not here or there, anywhere. Just subscribe. It's just cool. So It's nice to see when people do that. So anyhow, come back on Monday. I'd love you to do that, and enjoy your weekend. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.